The Private Indemnity Bond, The Church and the Broken Spell by Anna Von Rich. I received an unmarked communication asking me for a copy of the private indemnity bond that I lodged with the Treasury. It must be understood that it is private, only in the sense of being on the private side of the Treasury ledger, and is in fact available for anyone to research at the United States Treasury by bond number. What it says is that I and others, including witnesses who have established the fact that unlimited credit is owed to us, have indemnified, that is unwritten, the states, meaning the actual states, to do mercantile business and to insure them against loss. To do this effectively, we place liens first upon the assets of the national credit, and then upon the assets of the municipal states of states, and then the assets of the territorial states of states, and rolled all of that into the federal states trust. After that, we brought it full circle and returned the federal states trust to the actual union, the United States, and the United States then returned assignment of the international powers to our incorporated federation of states, the United States of America. The indemnity bond is necessary for the federal state trust to be liquidated and for the United States of America unincorporated to do international business. Similar to owning a car, the ship of state must be insured and underwritten when it conducts international business. In the same way, the United States of America takes precedence as the priority creditor in international waters, all over delegated authorities, the Queen and the Pope, and also over all federal entities, including all U.S. corporations, states of states, and so on. Basically, the people, the United States, possess it all, the whole shooting match in sum total, and the people acting as state citizens in behalf of their states together operate the United States of America to serve the people. Those operating in an international capacity serve those operating in the national capacity. That is so that local rule cannot be overcome by any foreign effort to imperil national security and suborn it through control of global or international levels of government. The lawful tradition we honor prevents exactly what is going on right now, where globalists, criminals, and self-interested internationalists are attempting to take over all the countries of the world through the simple device of owning and operating government service corporations, misdirected and evil corporations which the Pope is refusing to liquidate, even though he is obligated to liquidate all such things that operate in a criminal matter. Corporations are only allowed to exist for lawful purposes, not legal purposes, a fact that Pope Francis and company have clearly never learned, have forgotten, or chosen to ignore. Chief among those offering corporations are those of the city of Westminster and the bar associations and all their associated accounts. Next are the offending municipal corporations of the United States and all the other countries that have been abused by this system, in which persons are treated as public properties. Thus, the liens are secured for the benefit of the living people of each state and for the state in terms of any property entrusted to any federal state trust or state of state organizations, holdings, and the people in turn indemnify the operations of the states and the United States of America in their behalf. Their assignments had to be done in the specular fashion, thanks to the obstruction that the perpetrators placed in the way of the lawful governments. But in the plain and simple fact of it is that the way our government is constructed, as long as there is an American breathing on this planet, our government lives. I'm not putting the blame for all this on rank and file Catholic, and as everyone knows, I have done more than my share to attempt to raise the conscience and consciousness of the Roman Catholic clergy, but the facts remain. Incorporated commercial entities are ruled by the Roman Curia within the Roman Catholic Church. 2, as they created these business structures, they are responsible for riding herd on them and making sure that they cause no harm. 3, they have thus far failed this critical, important social function and let the corporations, especially those that they direct, own, or benefit from, run wild. 4. They have directly supported operant programming that is highly immoral through investments in organizations that target young children, like Disney, which is now owned by George Soros, and the illegal federal Department of Education that Jimmy Carter used to dumb down for generations of Americans. 5. They have supported a worldwide program of chemtrail spreading that impacts every corner of the globe except Vatican City, which always make sure that the chemtrail garbage is not spread on their soil and in their air. 6. They have condoned sexual abuse within the church, among the clergy, and among the members, and taken such a lax stand against it that chronic repeat offenders have been allowed to continue their activities with the protection of the church. 7. They have taught a form of cannibalism as doctrine of the church by the adoption of the notion of transubstantiation, teaching that communism, wine and bread actually magically transform into the blood and body of Jesus. 8. They have instituted their operatives into over 700 of the largest corporations on earth to form a criminal syndicate controlled by a massive interlocking trust directorate. I can't believe I couldn't. 9. They have planned to liquidate all the actual national governments and add 2 new layers of corporate government, both regional government and United Nations government, on top of the very lucrative corporate governmental services corporations they have in place, and to burden the people down with the expenses of their betrayers and oppressors. 10. They have allowed the pernicious teachings of adultery and usury to run rampant and unopposed, and have attended to hide these issues under the rug and keep the obvious fraud going against people of all nations. 11. They have promoted the fantastic big lie that carbon dioxide emissions are dangerous when they are naturally buffered and amounts to 0.035 of 1% of the atmosphere. 12. They have failed to report and take appropriate action to address the actual problem, which is a 5% drop in the amount of atmospheric oxygen in the past 60 years, a problem that can be countered by cleaning up pollution and planting trees and restoring other vegetation. 13. They have hatched a flagrant, fraudulent taxation scheme based on this ridiculous idea that carbon dioxide is causing global warming and intended to make otherwise sane people agree to the Paris Accords they propose. 14. They have participated and colluded in the biggest human trafficking and enslavement scandal in the history of mankind and benefited themselves from it, along with the Queen and Westminster, all of whom owe us good faith service and perpetual amity. I suppose I could go on, but why bother? That accounts for Jesus and the 13 disciples, all trampled underfoot, defamed, deserved, and mocked. It is painfully apparent that however sincere Catholics may be, and however compassionate and however devout, their church leadership is following the father of all lies and doing so flagrantly to the detriment of life on this planet. It's really simple if you think about it. If you choose life and truth over death and lies, how much more obvious does it have to be? Recently, leaders of several Italian families have repented. They don't know much about religion or philosophy, but they know they have lived lies and told lies and used lies to prosper. And they know now that Satan is the father of all lies. They have turned away from the evil infesting the church. I don't know what put the fear of God into their hearts, but there is a great turnaround coming. The shivers of the earthquake in the global power structure are being felt from Stockholm to Bangkok. I felt exhausted this morning, she said. I woke up tired in a way beyond physical stress, the kind of tired one feels after a great spiritual battle. So tired, in fact, that I didn't immediately notice the change in the atmosphere. I was just going about my business, drawing my hair, checking my messages, and it hit me. The spell is broken. Enough people have awakened so that the powers of illusion and propaganda and lies and pretending to be something you are not are broken, snapped like a rotten rubber band. I shook my head in wonderment. The spell that has kept people enslaved for thousands of years, kept people worshiping idols, kept people of war, all of it is broken, gone like a bad smell or a black cloud. All of a sudden, the atmosphere has changed. We are not in the same world we were in yesterday or all the other days we can remember. And all of a sudden, look has begun. Tucker Carlson wants that America is being attacked by its own ruling class. And then they give you that, wake up, flick on the course of the 4th. Okay. This really is unheard of someone else besides me reporting on the Brits at the bottom of every dog pile. Do you all realize that I have waited for this day without knowing that I waited for it all my life? And now that it is here, I quite take it in and ain't too tired to enjoy it. But tomorrow, a great many more Americans will wake up, and more Italians and more Swiss, more Germans, more Brits. The tipping point has been tipped.